Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we have the creator and founder of Hyperion Cloud AI joining us, Tamim Dene. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm looking forward to our second conversation. We had tremendous feedback and follow up and engagement from our first one, but for those of us who are joining us for the first time today, I think we should do a little bit of a recap.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's jump into it. So, tell us a little bit about how this project started.
For sure. 5 months ago, I was traveling. I was in a conference, and a young man approached me. And we were talking about using AI for demand forecasting, how we collect information and data. We focus on event to forecast demand for any product or sales. And he's like, are we able to use that to forecast event? And he actually went further. He's like, well, can we do a story about event happening in the future? The idea stuck with me, and I was in a meeting with my team, and I brought it up. I'm like, can we take the tools we use for business and see if we can forecast event? Now, the main challenge we faced is that instead of forecasting for 12 months, we wanted to do for 100 years. And that's a big difference, right? So this is kind of the seed that brought this idea up. For the last 5 months, this project has been taking quite a bit of our time. We improved our platform quite a bit because of this project. And as a side project, it really became a passion for all of us. We are a team that's so passionate about this right now. We want to see the reaction of people about what we're doing.
That's beautiful because what we talked about was the creation of content of the end of mankind being the first created AI-led, AI-created story. But the roots of that is demand forecasting.
Correct. So it started as we have a demand forecast tool, and then we were like, can we forecast event, a human natural event, like what's going to happen in 20, 40, 60 years? And then we went further. We're like, can you, after you forecast this event, tell a story? So we believe this is the first imagined, predicted, written, and illustrated graphic novel, all by artificial intelligence engine.
That's incredible. That's a lot of different chefs in the kitchen, but managed by a master chef or a team of editors like yourself and your team.
We're doing the editing on it, but every idea, every image is being illustrated, imagined by the AI engine. What we're doing is we're training the model. That's what I would call it. We keep training the model because we want to make sure it's a story for human consumption. Uh, the title of the novel, the details of the novel, all imagined by an artificial intelligence engine based on human history and forecast of events that might happen in the next 20, 40, 60, and 100 years. Now, the novel takes place in 2115, so almost 90 years from now. But that being said, there is a lot of flashbacks, and there's a lot of event that, it feel like something that could happen in our life. I want people to read it and see what happened to see how accurate this model is.
Having looked over the synopsis on the website and the images, it's powerful stuff and really engaging. I think we can spend in another episode, another question, a little bit more about the content. But I think for those who us are really interested about how it's made, because I think that's fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of AI engine you're using, what kind of data you're feeding in? How is that different from, let's say, if we were doing a sales forecasting or demand forecasting, that you give it inputs of 12 months to 36 months? What information is it drawing on to predict something that's 20, 40, 60 years in the future?
Yeah, let's start talking about the engine. We have a cloud platform, and if you want to break artificial intelligence, I'll break it into skills. Every piece of software focus on specific action. Let's say image recognition, illustration, language understanding, natural language. What we did, we build up this platform that have access to all kind of skills, whether it's open source, whether it's skills from different company, the top three, ChatGPT. And after that, once we have the platform with all the skills, we'll ask the questions. And it draws on its own software, on others, and it uses critical thinking to decide what information to display. So this is kind of how the engine works. We know the input of it. We know the output. Through the process of computation. It does something that I think because of the algorithm and the openness of it, we don't understand it. Now, what we fed the engine and the platform is human history event. We fed it information about a human history event, political environment, whatever we could feed it information that it can draw from it. Similar way to do when you do a forecast. We did it for event forecasting. And after that, we use that creative part of drawing on human stories and creating a story, drawing on human characters and creating characters. Compile all of that, you have this novel.
I think that there's an adage out there that came out recently. You're either going to be working for the robot or the robot's going to be working for you. So you're creating this new economy here in empowering the tools to tell a story and just being a creative curator to say, well, what comes next? And tell me a little bit more about this. So I find that very fascinating.
Yeah, and like, I'm really excited about the story, but at the same time, it's a wise tale story. The event that happened doesn't seem favorable for humankind. The name of the novel, The End of Mankind, it touched on a very important topic for us. It touched on genetic modification. It touched a lot on that. It touched on a human nature of choosing to fight and war over peace and prosperity. It also touched on how we're impacting the planet. In 100 years, it doesn't give you a utopic view. I think it gives you a dystopic view. It gives you a catastrophic event that will happen to us.
Well, I hope there's some positives there. I hope with the modern advances in medicine, we can cure some diseases, we can address longevity, we can address some tools that'll affect climate change. I think it's interesting how this series goes on.
I don't think hope will get us there. Just to be candid with you, we can hope as much as we want, but look at the last 10 years, look at the event happening in the world, look at proxy war escalation. We are at the mercy of a few who have access to immense amount of power, and it impacts all of us as a species.
Well, that brings me to my next question here. I mentioned quickly that it was a series, but I'm not sure our audience knows that. So, what happens after the end of mankind? What is the ultimate goal of this graphic novel series?
So, by the end of this book, there's still survivors. But the novel talk about the event that took our population or our humanity from this advanced society to a very dystopic society. And it breaks down the event. And then it talks about how we reacted or the future generation reacted and how that kind of impact us. What we discovered, the more we dig on it, the more event it bring up. And ultimately, we want to make sure we produce a body of work. We want feedback of people. I want to know what people think of this one here. It is the first of its kind, and feedback will be as important as anything. So I want to see the feedback of people, and then if people think this is something they want to know more about, we can produce additional.
That's interesting. It brings me to how do you expect people or hope people will support this project?
If you want to support this project, if you're interested in the idea, go to the website. We created 100 copy of limited edition. This is kind of to fund the team that worked so hard on this project. It is the first of its kind, so I really believe it's going to become a collectible. Go to the website, get a limited edition, talk about it, review it online, share it with your friend. This is the way to support it. At the same time, this is opening a new door of creativity. This is allowing an AI engine to write a story, and it is a fascinating story. I read it many times, over 20 times, and the more I read it, the more I fall in love with it. Another thing, every time we upload the same story and we ask the engine more questions, the story gets better. I mean, from the first version to this version right now we have that we're looking to publish, the story get much more complex, it get much better, and the character get more vivid. They grown quite a bit. Illustration get better. So I can imagine how this will look after 3 or 4 years working on it. The level of complexity and the story is just moving much faster than human creativity in my mind.
So let's touch back on a few things. That's very interesting. The limited editions, I believe you mentioned there's going to be a print copy and that you could, it's tangible.
Yes, so we're only doing print copy. There is no digital copy because this is a digital art. And I want people to touch it and feel it and see the picture and illustration by hand. So what we did, the first 100 copy we printed, we have them numbered. They will be shipped sealed. So the first 100 copy we published, we have them numbered. They will be shipped sealed with additional information about the team, additional illustration, and other sideline stories. I really believe those 100 copy will be collectible. So those are the copy that if you want to support this project, go and grab one of them. And after 5 years, we believe it will pay off for you. It will become a collectible. Now, outside of that, we're going to have only printed copies, and it will ship directly from us to you wherever you are.
That's amazing. So that's a new kind of take on digital art because you're going to have physical art here, but it's produced by AI, it's produced digitally, and then there might be future editions that'll live online.
I'm a big fan of comic books and graphic novels. And one thing I could never get over is when you enjoy a story, you want to hold it. You want to have some food, go to the park, read it in the sun. You want to share it with a friend.
Tell me a little bit about your influences on graphic novels. What were some of the first you read, or what were your takeaways? What made you fall in love with graphic novels?
I mean, there's so many famous writers that make me fall in love with it. Since I was a kid, my dad always shared with me graphic novel he loved. And it kind of morphed into the comic book genre and graphic novels. Isaac Asimov have a massive influence on me personally. But that being said, this is not my creation. I created the engine that wrote the story.
No, but it came from a passion, and that
Correct.
passion exists out there across the board from people who are just discovering new art and coming back to reading, and people that have some nostalgia for it but want to see where the future is going. So I absolutely believe that there's going to be a market and interest of saying, what is the new way of consuming content, and
Absolutely.
who's driving this content.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, I believe after publishing this, AI engines will be a driver in the content. What we will be the one who's feeding that engine, will be the one that feeding that engine to give us content. And that's going to be a big change. Now, once we publish this one here, I want to read the critic's opinion. I want the most critical voices out there to come. But that being said, my next goal, me and my team, is to transfer this novel, and it is The End of Mankind, to the silver screen. That will be our goal. The story is something that captivates all of us, and the characters are really cool. The evolution of the event is very, very realistic. At some point, it feels like I'm reading our future as a species. It feels like the Back from the Future, Back to the Future book, and we're reading a copy from 100 years.
Absolutely, that's very. Back to the Future is one of my favorite films. I want to go back to about the support and the feedback, because you've received tremendous engagement already on your social channels. People have reached out with interesting offers. People are asking a lot of interesting questions. I wonder where you might take that engagement. Would any of that engagement come into the narrative of the book? Would people try to supply questions about, tell me more about this, or narrative lines?
Absolutely. So if you have a question about, after you read the novel, if you have a question about that word, just go online and write us a message. Ask the question, and we will ask it to the AI engine. I got tremendous amount of feedback. In fact, our website crashed because we weren't able to handle the amount of volume. That being said, that's all fixed. I got an offer for the 001 copy of the novel. It's from the United Arab Emirates. Crazy offer. I don't want to talk about the details, but it was a very seductive offer to sell that copy. We didn't. But that being said, after you read the novel, if you have questions, you have a chance to go online, write the question, send it as a message, and we will ask it to the engine. And we will make sure to respond to you directly with the engine storyline of your question before we publish it. Yes.
That's incredible, because that, when you read a piece of art, you read anything, you always wonder, what was the author thinking? Right? So I would love to know my input that contributed to something or what someone else's thinking was on that subject. So as a companion piece, it'd be really interesting to say like what were the questions asked? Here's version 1 and here's version 2 and what were the iterative versions based on the questions and the model that was trained.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe that will bring the idea. Maybe we'll have direct communication between the AI model and the audience. So people can go and ask question directly. We don't have that yet. We want to control the timing that we use our model. Publishing this is taking a lot of manpower and machine power, right? And we want to be concise. We have a massive library of data we're using to do the prediction. We are inputting quite a bit of human literature to teach it how to think and write stories. So we have a big investment, and the energy of this engine have to go into building this story. So for now, it's not open. But that being said, if you got the novel and you have a question of the engine, ask it. We will ask it to the engine.
That's amazing. Shifting gears for a moment or building upon that, you have a background with major technology companies and public cloud players, and this idea came from demand forecasting. So I'm curious, how do you see the applications that that have come out from this creative process? What do you think the applications might be in the business world of this forecasting tool?
Well, it's really proof that our forecasting tool is a really unique of its own. We're happy that all the learning we did building this prediction model, we're using in our forecasting tool. So our main job, Hyperion Cloud AI, I think it have the best AI-based forecasting tool in business-wise. Ultimately, that is our day-to-day work and business. I don't want to talk about that. I'm here to talk about my passion, not what we do in a day-to-day. But that being said, initially that was a side project. And we all fell as a team in love with this project. But ultimately, the tool we build and the code we build into this AI engine will better our AI forecasting tool.
Okay, well, that's great. I think this is an amazing content, an amazing series that you'll get a lot of engagement for, and you'll have a lot of iterative avenues that people will add their feedback, and the story will change, and you'll have story 2 and story 3 and backstory. And I'm just very excited to see what AI comes up with and just trying to think about it.
So
I
it
hope
is one
there's
story.
something positive in there to take care.
Yeah, so it is one story. But what happened during the story, there's some characters that they are so interesting, but they only have a small part of this story. And we ask AI about their stories, and that become a side story. There's also event that happen in the next 100 years that seem to be too big and only mentioned in this novel. We ask AI about that. So I would say it's a one universe that this novel, this AI engine is predicting, and the side story is more of a thing that we read in the novel, and we were like, hold on, we need to know more about those. So right now, we believe it's a total of 4 stories. There's 2 characters that end up being side stories, and there's 1 event that needed 1 story. But if you read this novel, you will have an idea of those other events and the characters. And then will be your choice. Will say, do I need to know Maya more, which is one of the story that end up being a book called A Girl Named Maya. But the novel give you quite a bit of information about her life. But then I was so intrigued by this character to ask the AI engine, can you tell me her story? And it came back with the most fascinating story of a human I've ever heard.
Well, there's a saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we have maybe a couple thousand words in this novel here, but the pictures are outstanding, and it really begs the curiosity of what's coming up. So I love the imagery of Maya and the end of world and the worlds that they come through. So I think it's a beautiful blend of illustrations and content. It's going to take me on a very creative journey.
And if you're interested to know more about it, the website is www.endofmankind.net. And you can go there. There's a storyboard, and you can see the story, some part of the story, and you can judge it for yourself. And if interested, you can definitely support this project.
Let me ask you this. We touched on publishing. Is it published yet, or when can we expect it to be published?
This novel will be published on May 15. But that being said, we are accepting pre-orders for the limited edition and the regular edition. If you are interested in a limited edition, you only have a very short time to go and pick up one. We are getting quite a bit of interest in it. So definitely, if that's your curiosity, go for it. But the regular edition, you can go online and pre-order it today.
That's very exciting. I can't wait to receive, hopefully, my limited edition copy if I get in line. Thank you so much for the conversation today. I hope that everyone goes to the website and learns more. This has been a great chat with Tamim Dene, the founder and creator of Hyperion Cloud AI.
Thank you very much, Eric. Nice
you.
to meet you.